Hey, good morning, Lee. This is Mike. Let's do a test of the audio. Can you hear me?
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. No complaints. How about yourself?
I know I just stuffed a big roll into my mouth here, so I can't speak real clearly. So,
No worries. Enjoy your breakfast. I'm drinking some coffee myself.
how's everything in the big city?
Oh, you know, nice. Nothing too exciting going on down here in Lansing today. Are you in Ontonagon?
I'm in Ontonagon right now. Yeah,
Lovely. Anything exciting going on there these days?
I don't know. We're fighting smoke all the time here. It's ironic because I go to Arizona in the wintertime and we've got a little place we bought on the north side of Phoenix, and that's sort of in a valley there, like a big bowl. But
Oh, yeah.
air quality there is way better than it is here in Ontonagon right now because of the smoke.
Yeah, that's brutal. I was up in Gaylord for 3 days last week, and yeah, I didn't realize how much it was affecting me. My lungs still feel irritated from spending 3 days outside in Gaylord last week and all that smoke.
Yeah, if you've got any kind of respiratory issues, you're gonna feel it here. So, uh,
Yeah, yeah,
I
it's
mean, you
quite
can look
unpleasant.
across some of the valleys where we stay at our cabin in the summer, and it's sitting on top of a pretty good sized ridge looking south, and I mean the moon is always orange, and I mean you can see smoke hanging in the valleys there. When I
Yeah,
used to
yeah.
when I used to bear hunt for my kids or bait for my kids, we'd wait for a wind that was out of the north, and we'd burn honey
Hmm.
and that scent would then, if it was out, it would drift down into all those holes or those ravines down there to the south. And now they're all filled with smoke, so I don't know how it worked now, but
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. And do any of you guys remember these massive Canadian wildfires decades ago, or is this a more recent phenomenon? I mean, has the
I
boreal
don't know.
forest always been burning every summer and I just
No,
haven't been
it,
paying
it always
attention?
burned, but it burned for a week maybe, and most of the smoke that we're getting is coming from Manitoba, I'm told. So
Yeah.
you've got prevailing winds out of the northwest that are blowing it this way, and so, but
Yeah, well, I'm praying for rain in Canada just because I'm tired of, sucking on the smoke in Michigan.
yeah. Yeah, it rained heavily here this morning, but right now it's got blue sky, uh, so we're good to go here. So your project is finally going ahead, it appears, huh?
We appear to have a contract with the Forest Service. So yeah,
That's
I
remarkable. You
now
can get
have a
that
mechanism to pay you guys.
good thing lives aren't at stake, because it takes a while to get anything in the federal government to move. So
Yeah, that is true. I'm having all kinds of weird issues with my multiple screens this week, so I'm actually just going to leave my camera off. Hey, Kelly, before we get going, do you by chance have a current number of applications for us across the 16 counties?
Approximately 1,200.
Okay. Are applications slowing down or ramping up?
Oh, they're still trickling in. So county office is working on, wrapping up, creating records and getting their applications done and making sure we have all the information we need for our environmental assessments. Folks obviously continue to go and tell their folks about it. So we still have folks trickling in.
From your perspective, when's the ideal time to unleash these 40 foresters? Is that ASAP or do you want to wait a little while? What's the
It's
best timing?
it's gonna be a little bit because we're just ramping up and getting out there and heavily doing the environmental assessments. Um, so those have to be done before we can make any referral to a service forester. And I should honestly have a better feel about that here later today. We have a touch point meeting at this time every Thursday. And so I'm obviously not in that meeting. So somebody is going to be kind of trying to obtain that information so we know exactly um, where we're at and where we're projected. I think it's going to be a couple more weeks before we're really ramped up to start forwarding um, applications. And I think we need to discuss like how many at a time would work best for folks, especially if they're traveling to that, area to do work.
Yeah, and that presents a timing issue for us here at the DNR as far as reimbursing expenses. My accountants have hammered into my brain that we must reimburse any expense in the fiscal year, in the same fiscal year that it occurs, meaning that if we unleash 40 foresters to start doing hundreds of site visits on September 1, I'm going to need everybody to get reimbursed, by September 30 for any work done in September. That's not a big deal, but it is important from a fiscal year payment perspective. So if
Yeah.
if October 1st works for FSA, um, that may prevent some payment challenges for the DNR.
Okay. And we'll have to have a further discussion on that and kind of some strategic planning. The one thing that we have to be aware of is we won't have any funding or any ability for us to go out and do environmental site visits on October 1st. There'll be a stoppage. We just That just is normal business. Um,
For how
so
long?
until they provide us with funds and they give us, you know, permissions and stuff. I mean, it could be a week, 2 weeks, it could be a month.
It could be a lot longer because
Yes.
does who actually in their right mind thinks that the federal government's going to be open on October 1st? There ain't going to be a budget by October 1st.
Well, but they have a continuing resolution, but then that kind of also overrides what we can do. So we know we're on a deadline as far as for us to try and get all these environmental site visits completed before September 30th. So, um, but yeah, we can schedule whether we do that on Monday or if you want to schedule, during our normal touch point, or if you want to schedule something between now and then so we can kind of chat about some logistics. I think that'd be beneficial for everybody.
Yeah, let's do that. I'm actually on Monday flying out to Washington State to go play in some national parks before they get sold off to the venture capitalists. Um, so I'm going to be gone the next 2 weeks. I'm hoping to get these contracts out the door on Friday. Um, so it'd be good for us to figure out by Friday what's our game plan.
Okay. I've got an opening this afternoon. Tomorrow is typically my Friday off because we work longer days, but I can accommodate and we can meet tomorrow if that works better too. So
Got time tomorrow afternoon.
sure.
Hey Ken, I've made you a co-host, I believe. Are you able to share your screen?
Let me check here real quick.
Everybody, I'm going to keep my camera off. I've been having weird issues with I've got a laptop and two external monitors, and when I open up the laptop for the camera, everything just goes black and I can't see or do anything. So you all know what I look like. I haven't got any better looking, so I'm going to leave my camera off.
All right.
And Ken's our main presenter here this morning anyhow, so we got to get him up and going, sharing the screen.
All right, I think this is working.
Yes, sir.
All right, how does that look though? Because that's on my wide screen. Do I need to move that to the regular size screen?
So what I'm seeing is the big wide, green bar, and yes, now it's getting
Is that better?
much bigger and easier to view for me. Hopefully, that's the case for others.
All righty.
Um, I've got 9:05. I guess we're probably going to have, oh, actually, we already are recording. I was going to start recording. So we are recording. Thanks everybody for joining us today. Uh, the uh, the main purpose of this morning's training is for my colleague here, Ken Sires, who works with GIS with our section, to showcase this Survey123 tool that we're hoping to use for doing these site visits for Farm Service Agency, and to do two primary tasks, right? To estimate the area or extent of damage, primarily in terms of acres. I don't think we're going to do a lot with linear measurements. There are some linear conservation practices, but I think we're focusing primarily on area. Ken will get into that more. And then also to develop a restoration plan. And I just want to say up front that, having been in the management plan business for a little while now, I recognize that everybody hates templates. And I know that foresters like to provide their own custom work and showcase their own approach to a forest management plan. But just to be clear, that is not the approach we're looking for here with the Emergency Forest Restoration Program. We really do want to utilize the cookie cutter consistency that a template is going to force all of us into using, because with 40 foresters providing 1,200 plans to 8 FSA staff in 16 counties, we really do need to have a consistent product. And we also want to have a product that is exactly what FSA needs, so that FSA can complete the application and the landowner can complete the task and be successful in accessing these funds, for getting that 75% cost share for emergency forest restoration program. So anyhow, I acknowledge up front that nobody likes a template, but I am very excited about this. And Ken, I want to thank you for your work to do this. And I'm going to mute myself and pass it over to you to walk us through here. I'll keep an eye out if anyone wants to, raise your hand. Um, Ken, should we just take questions throughout and, deal with it that way? Or do you have a preference on walking through it first and then coming back for questions? How do you want to do questions?
Yeah, I think if you have something, just go ahead and barge right in and interrupt, and we can address it as we go. If not, we can always open it up for questions at the end, but we can kind of keep this as kind of informal as possible. The goal is for everybody to get a look at it and kind of get a better understanding of the new tool here. So yeah, don't hesitate to cut me off and ask what you need to ask, because
All right,
I probably won't be looking for the hand up icon over in the chat.
nope, I'll be your Vanna White. You focus on the presentation and I'll interrupt as needed, but take it away, Ken. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, and it's kind of the to get started here. Um, this is the first iteration of this. It's a pretty complex workflow because there's a ton of different inputs and possible inputs that go into it. So um, I think this is the good starting off point. I'm going to be asking everybody as you use this for your feedback, how we can make this better, how we can streamline it for how you use it out in the field or at your office. We want this thing to kind of grow and get better over time. I'm a GIS guy, right? So I took the forms and the applications and kind of put them all into this Survey123 tool. I'm not the one working with this stuff in real time, so your feedback is really gonna help kind of push this the direction it needs to go. Like I'm pretty confident that it gets us a tool that is functional and serves the purpose that we need it. But if you guys have feedback at any point, whether it's the first day using it or at the end of the year, just some things that you'd like to see, I'm open to any and all comments or criticism so that we can get this thing in the right direction. I don't want to build something that you guys don't want to use. The goal is for you to want to use it because, like Mike said, we want to have good, consistent databases. Just going to help us out in the long run, looking at all this stuff as a whole. So I just want to kind of extend the invite for criticism, feedback, whatever it is you have that's going to help us push this thing forward because it's a program that that hopefully is around forever, and the tool will evolve with it and get just easier, more useful. So I don't know if everybody's already if everybody's already used Survey123, but just some background on it. It's basically a GIS tool through the Esri ArcGIS Online suite of products that is kind of geared towards building spatial data sets. So building like a GIS data set through more of a form functionality. It's pretty streamlined for, just to be able to enter data as you go. And in this one particularly, I kind of like to think of it as a like choose your own adventure, right? It's based as we get into it, you'll see that the start of the form is going to be the main application or that main form that you fill out for everything. And then from there, you kind of get to pick your recommended practices or the practices that you're using. And as you turn those on, those forms are going to populate. There is a little bit of automation that still needs to be built in. There is probably a little bit of the more kind of narrative heavy items that were on the forms that I came from that need to go in. But this kind of covers every form but our fences currently, just because fencers are a linear property, and I'm going to see how I can integrate those. But I will is there a chat here? I can let me copy this and just throw in the chat real quick. So that way, if anybody wants to play around while we're here or have it open, kind of walk through it, you're welcome to do so. So that link's going to take you to the webpage. You can use this on your phone or on the computer. It's just going to start out with this basic screen. You'll see how many pages it is. And you just hit next to start the survey. Pretty simple. And is this a good Zoom level for everybody? Can we see what everything says?
It looks good to me, Ken.
Okay, so it's going to start with the general form. Like I mentioned, it's basically all the information that you see on all the different forms combined with the general form itself. You'll notice that some of these say if applicable, and I only added if applicable because not all forms have those, but they were common fields. So like contract numbers and field numbers didn't seem like it belonged on everyone, but it belongs on most of them. So you kind of view the general information as everything's mandatory as long as it applies. Soil map units is another one that it's only relevant when a practice requires a soil map. And then we'll see later in the document that or in the survey that there is a place to upload that soil map. So you'll go ahead and continue to fill this out. Right now, the counties and townships they're all put into a list. So if you just start typing, like I'm up in Delta County, if I start typing, well, you actually got to click it, Delta, there it is. I might move this around so that it's after the map because it's possible that if we draw in our damage area, once that's drawn in, it can then populate it, but it just didn't fit there in the form. So right now, if you guys hate typing it in, let me know. We can automate this. It'll just move in the form down the line a little bit. Same with township. It's one of those ones that you can just click, but we can have it automated as well. Parcel acres, we don't really have access to the parcel data set to populate that. So that's something you'll still have to source along with forested acres. Damage acres is another one that we're going to calculate later on. and we can kind of make the decision we want to move this stuff out or move the map up. General feel is it better to do the map portion first or get through the form? Anybody want to weigh in? Like, would you draw out your damage areas first and then start filling out the form? Because we can certainly move that to the top of the list, and then it would start populating all this stuff. So, but we can go come back to it after we see the map. Then you have your mileage, your hours. Just hit next. You just keep putting these things in. This is gonna follow the main form, your description, forest health concerns, damage to forest. They're all limited to 1,000 characters. That's the maximum that we can have on here. So we're gonna ask everybody to be concise with their language. Be descriptive and concise. So that way we can get a whole, we can get all the information in. If we need to add more info later, there is room to, if you have a Word doc full of extra notes, you can always attach those at the end of the survey. The summary of recommended conservation practices, this is where it starts getting a little more interactive. You'll see that there's just a single practice, but you can fill this out. If you're doing multiple practices, then you just hit add additional practice and so on. This kind of replaces a table that was in the original form, but tables are really hard to do in this format. So we just have the additional practices. I think we have up to 4 here. And then it cuts off. If I need to add more, I can. If not, you can always append a table at the end. Again, this is kind of the base application. We will update it and improve it as necessary. So once you get your summary in, you can go ahead and hit next, and then we get to the map. This is going to look a little bit different and act a little different. Depends on if you're on the computer or on mobile. So if you're on your mobile device, it'll automatically detect your GPS on your phone or your tablet, whatever kind of device you're using. It will zoom you into your location, so it'll find you. If you're at a computer like I am currently, it's gonna ask me about my location. I'm gonna click it to activate the map. It'll let me use the basically the Wi-Fi, so it'll get your zip code and push you to the right place. But I want to show you what happens if you don't give it permission. You get the errors. This is not a big deal. All you got to do is click off of those errors because it's just coming up with no GPS. You can hold Control Zoom, and I got outside of my map. But if you're inside your map,
You're okay. I'm just moving.
all right. So you can go inside. You can pan, tilt. You just click to grab it, move it around. I'm up in Gladstone here. Control and mouse scroll to zoom, and then you can select your damage areas. We'll get out here in the woods a little bit, and we'll just say this is our damage area. Click the polygon button in the top right, and this is just going to be a point to draw a polygon. You'll get this little pop up here that'll, if you go click, you see you now have the option to undo if you don't like it. You need to realign, undo again, adjust our starting point, kind of highlight what's necessary. And then once you're done, it'll stay floating, but you can go ahead and either, I don't like it at all, reset it totally, cancel this altogether, or the check mark will finish it and commit that here. It then gives us our perimeter and our acreage of our damage. If you need to come back and edit it, you just hit the pencil button, and now you can grab and pull the vertexes as necessary if you want to hone things in, or you can just go ahead and delete it all together. We make our adjustments, we hit the check mark, and we're good to go here. At any time you can trash it if you want to start over using the trash can lid or the trash can icon. Yep.
Can you add a new vertices point at any point?
From an existing?
Yeah. So if you realize you need
so if
more
I want to edit here,
yeah.
It looks like, yep, as long as they have these little white dots that are kind of
Oh,
the
those,
centroid.
okay. Yeah,
As long as you point at that, you'll see the little plus next to my cursor. It's really small.
yep,
But then if you know, if that's not where you want it, you can then grab it and pull it.
slide it, yeah.
Yep. So just point at one of the white ones, click, it'll get you your new vertex, put it wherever you want.
Cool, thanks.
Yep. All right. And then we move on to the recommended practices. This is kind of where it gets a little more interactive. So you'll notice here that we're at page 5 of 8. That's just what shows up until you start. That's just the base survey with the attachments, pictures, you know, and what we've seen so far. Once you start clicking on these, this drives all of the rest of the IR sheets. So if we want, you know, I'm going to make it a little bit smaller so you can see. I just want to kind of show you how interactive this is. So I got brush management. You'll see that goes up to 9. I want to do fire breaks. It goes up to 10. There's a new page for every one of these. If you do not click these, you will not get the proper form. But just for example, we'll go brush management. That'll be next now. They're all the next in line. So we'll just do brush management and fire break. You go ahead and click next, and each sheet will have its form number or its CS314 brush management. And you'll have a form that aligns or a page that aligns with each one of those practices. It runs you through all of your required all of the required form data for each of those, and some of these are interactive as well. So it's like that choose your own adventure. If say chemical was tied to something and I clicked it, that would pop up. But it's not. Say we want tracking method, chemical, biological. These ones aren't as interactive here, but it gives you all your information or all of your fields to go ahead and fill out just like the forms. Anywhere there is, outside of a few of these, anywhere there's asterisks, it's usually for a mandatory, but keep an eye out if there's an asterisk for notes further on down the treatment or down the page. You know, in this specific situation, you have the note down here that's, you know, hand cutting and girdling requires equipment needed, and you drop that in this list here. Most of the time, these are going to mean that it's a required field, but you'll see more of that later. I do expect to do a little more quality checking as we go to make sure everything is marked appropriately, but all of the form data has been migrated into these. So once you fill all of these out, just like you would any of those forms, you can go ahead. And you know, they're broken up into sections where you have kind of the design, you have your O&M, you'll have your design approval, and this is where we get into signatures. If you need to sign something, you just point and click. It's good to go. Your date should be automatic in most of these. If it's, you know, if it's not, you can go ahead and just click in it, pop up, you know, say I actually signed it here. And then it gets passed on to client for client review. There's obviously the same fields, but for the client for signature, this date isn't automatic because it's going to happen after the survey date likely. Select that. This one does require you to check a box for if your map or sketch is provided. If you need to add a sketch, you can check that yes or no. Whether your pictures are taken, yes or no. You'll see later on at the end of the survey, you're going to have the spot for uploading all your pictures and all of your extra attachments. Again, this just follows the process of all of the IR forms. And again, if it's, I don't want to gloss over anything, but I'm sure you guys are all familiar with these forms. I don't need to go through them one by one. It's mostly functionality. But feel free to interrupt me if you want to spend any extra time. Then, you know, we had fire break selected. So fire break form is going to pop up. This one, you know, most of them will tell you if it requires a soil map, which will tell you if you needed to add a soil map units back on the first page. So there is some situations where you might have to back up and be like, oh crap, I forgot to put soil map units there. And you got to go use the back button all the way down here to get back a couple pages. But as you can see, it's kind of broken up. They're all grouped in, the different form sections. So you'll have like your general specs, your practice, your practice purposes, your O&M, your best management practices. But everything with a header is, they're kind of broke up intuitively with, how your original forms are. Some information, some of these, instead of having tables like they did in the forms, you'll have just a list of what these job classifications are. You can just type in, again, signatures. On your installation certification, this is like the one kind of the one element throughout that requires a signature that also requires a has been, has not been checkbox. This used to be just something that you circled on the form, but now you got to check this and then do the signature. And all of those IR forms are going to be very similar. Does anybody want to go back to see any of these specific forms? Because as long as you're familiar with them, they're all going to act the same. They're going to have the same requirements. They're basically just the original forms that have been integrated into this system. I think the clearing and snagging is one that's unique, where there's not actually any form data. It's just here's the defined requirements, because that doesn't require any inputs.
So Ken, on that clearing and snagging, is there a place then where people still have to, spec that out?
If maybe I didn't have the right form, but there wasn't any specs on the sheet that I was running from.
Let me confirm that with Andy over at NRCS. And then I've got
Yeah.
another question. So I appreciate how you have input the implementation requirements precisely as NRCS created them. I've actually got a question for Kelly. So do we need to get NRCS, forester, and landowner signatures as indicated on those implementation requirements on every practice that's being recommended? Or is there simply one place on this entire restoration plan template where the forester is going to sign off as, I'm the author of this restoration plan?
What we've done in the past is it's just been the forester that's writing the plan that signs off from it.
So could we eliminate those NRCS and client signature components under every one of these restoration practices?
I believe so, but you might want to double check that with Andy, or maybe that's something the three of us need to chat about further.
Yeah, the only concern I had with that, and again, being removed from the workflow, is that if these things are happening on different timelines and and there's like a closeout procedure for some and not others, that you'd want to have that capability of signing certain parts of it off. But you guys can let me know what you decide and I will adjust accordingly.
Well, and I guess I like it that you've already got it in there, so the capacity is there. I guess this is where we need some clear guidance from FSA so that the foresters know what is optional, what is required.
Yeah.
It seems, let's retain the capacity that you've built, but let's not confuse foresters out in the woods doing a EFRP restoration plan that they need to get someone from NRCS to sign off on this.
Yeah. And this is that clearing and snagging document that I was working from. So I don't see any inputs here. So if there's a different form that need to be integrated, just let me know.
Yeah, they shouldn't have to, because really, unless it's a structural component within that's required out there, really the forester is the one that is the technical service provider, not NRCS, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and then like I mentioned earlier, the only one not on here so far is fencing, and that's because it is a linear process. Mike kind of mentioned right at the front of this that that we're not as concerned with that, more of the damage area. So I can certainly put that in here. We just might require a second sketch to be uploaded that actually shows your fencing or whatever the other linear requirements are for that. So look for something in an update for fencing here in the near future. So once you
Okay.
have whatever IRs filled out that you needed to, you'll end up going through them, filling it out.
We do have a question, Ken, before you
Oh,
proceed.
yep.
Jake, I see you got your hand up. Go ahead, Jake, with your question.
Yeah, my question, so is there a downloadable version of this form? I'm just curious if we get in areas that don't have service or very low service where it's not going to work, is there some type of
So
downloadable?
there is, but not on this specific environment. So this is built out of the ArcGIS Online environment, and it's just a real-time link. And with the size of a survey, it's not uploading into the ArcGIS Survey123 application. Um, it's been something I've been troubleshooting, but it sounds like I might need to migrate it over to uh, the ArcGIS Survey Connect environment to be able to get that offline capability. Um, so if we think that we're going to for sure have issues in needing to do this offline, we can try to accommodate, but at this point, it's going to be online only. So you'll need some kind of service.
Okay, thanks. And I guess with the online too, it's automatic update. There will be no going back later and manually updating any of the information.
Yeah, it'll be do it in real time, submit it. And I will be building an application out that will make editing, and just because this is, these things happen in stages. So I will have, that'll be next is there'll be an application that you can open up and you can go select the survey and just edit whatever you need to. But editing in this isn't very friendly.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. All right. So once you get through your practice inputs here, you go next. Everything requires some pictures. So you have 4 picture slots here. I know that the 4 was what was required. I can add more if we think we need more. But I just wanted to kind of handle the requirements at this point. You can either do this from your phone you can take a picture in real time just by clicking to take a photo, or you can open up your browse your file explorer or whatever type of library you have. I don't know whether you're on Apple or in a PC or on your Android device, and go find it in your hard drive. So there's a few different ways, or you can drag and drop if that works easier. So it's pretty quick and easy. If you need to leave any notes for pictures, there's a spot for picture notes. I would just if you're leaving specific picture notes, I would just ask that you reference picture 1 and then whatever it is you need to say, so that way we know what those notes are saying about which picture. After picture uploads, this is where you have opportunity for additional attachments. There's one specifically for a soil map. So if a soil map is required, you can go ahead and drop it here. And I left all the file types, but most likely going to be a PDF file is just going to be the easiest. It'll be the smallest. But you can drop in any sort of Word, PDF, or Excel, or even PowerPoint file if you really needed to. And then there's a section for additional sketches if you have additional sketches. And then I added a couple extra attachment options. If if you had notes or you need to do expand, there's a handful of the IRs out there that will, that have a note that says if you need additional, any additional of one thing or another, just attach it. So that's kind of what these are in reference to. So if you need them, they're here. If not, they're not required. So you can just move along. From there, I put in a quick feedback because again, like I've started off, this is iteration one. We want this thing to grow and to be more useful and to be functional for you guys out there. Because again, you're the ones that have to use it. So if you want to take the couple minutes to fill this out, feel free. If not, not a big deal. But if there's something you really hate, I'd like to hear about it so we can fix it for you. But you just if you have the extra few minutes, feel free to let me know. From there, you just hit submit. It's going to send that out. I don't have it set up yet, but it will email necessary folks when it is submitted, and then you shouldn't have to worry about it. And that's kind of the basics of it.
So, Ken, my first question is, so this is submitting data to, the DNR Esri environment. How does a forester creating this plan export a PDF? Because that's the product that they will be providing directly to FSA.
Yeah, and that was a conversation I think we need to have. Is there's a few different options. Previous versions of this had ability just to download a copy of it in PDF form right from the survey. This version does not now. There is, I do have an export that I can set up so that it just pushes it out and sends it. Just webhooks it to an email. But I think what I need to know is every forester going to be printing these out themselves and sending along, or can it just automatically get sent to where they need it to go?
Well, my first approach would be that, yeah, the forester that's creating this plan is going to want to have a PDF of the plan for both their records internally, for providing a PDF to the landowner, and most importantly, for providing directly to the FSA staff person overseeing the county where this is located. So yeah, the forester creating the plan does need to have access to the PDF. Can we set it up so that, we're asking for the plan writer's email right up front, and then when the plan is submitted, it emails a PDF to that email?
Yeah, I should be able to set it up so that it just emails if I have an input email in the form where it can get it pushed out and sent. I was just gonna see if I could get access to this view to anybody, because this is really easy where you just go select it, you hit when report pops up, you report, and it just sends out the report itself. But I think you'll need an actual Esri login for that. And that's what we're trying to avoid is specific so I have it set up where I just select this one. I want selected records only. I have the template already set up, and then I can just go ahead and hit generate and it'll download it for me. So I will have to look at a good way to automate that and send it to the user. So I'll add an email address either at the front or the back of the survey, and that we'll have something pushed out to there.
Are there other questions from the users? I see a couple comments in the chat. I appreciate the concerns about the lack of cell service, but Ken, can you clarify, the forester doesn't necessarily have to fill out this application in the woods on site, 20 miles from a cell phone tower. They could do this back whenever they are, close to a cell phone tower or even
Yeah,
back in the home office environment if they prefer to do this on a desktop application. Um,
yeah.
so
Well, because
there are options
outside
there,
of
right?
the map part of it, which, you'll have the aerial photo in the background to be able to kind of, get the aerial look at and look at what you're doing for the damage areas. But outside of that, it's it's pretty word heavy anyway. It's a pretty robust process, so it's probably easiest from the computer back at the office either way. Um, so if it's easier to just do the map part out in the field, I'll funnel this into another app that makes it easy just to open it up in the field, map it out, and then go ahead and get back to the office, open it up and input everything too. Um, that will be just as easy, I think. And let me see if I have an example of that. I think we just did this for Kevin.
Lee, did you want to make a comment or a question?
I don't know. I'm just wondering, I mean, it seems cumbersome to have to remember data or record it somewhere to fill out when you get back. Well, in my case, it's going to be back to a hotel, Um, it just seems like you're duplicating effort.
Yeah, and I can work on migrating it over. That was my original intention, is to migrate it over, but it'll also require migrating it over to the environment that'll work on the application. But then again, that will also kind of require a login. Which is, does anybody have the like an Esri ArcGIS Online login? You can get them for free because it'll be public facing, but it'll be an additional setup, and we could do another training for that if I can get that to migrate over. I'll just show you what I'm talking about. Is so there's this ArcGIS Survey Connect that I've been downloading this form into for the last 6 hours, 4 hours, and I tried again yesterday. So I need to get it in this environment and publish it out before it'll be able to be pulled into the application. The phone app that requires or that allows you to do offline. So if I can get that to work, we'll have a good version of this that'll go offline. I just have been running into technical difficulties with it the last few days trying to get it over there. So the intention is to make that available offline, as long as I can get through these technical issues that are coming up.
That feature would be helpful, but I guess initially I'm not overly concerned with the limitation of having to, fill out and submit the data in an environment where you're, have cell service or, in a workplace desktop environment. I get it that it's not ideal. I get it that foresters would like to have full functionality universally across the 16 counties. Um, but I think that limitation will be relatively low on the list of challenges we're going to need to solve over the next 6 months. So I'm yeah, I appreciate you, Ken, wanting to, work towards that solution, but
Yeah.
I'm okay with rolling this out and getting started before that is possible. And yeah, and if someone doesn't have to buy $1,000 Esri license to use that offline capacity, that's a good possibility then, I guess that,
Yeah. Well, and since it is public, they just need to be able to log in, and you can get a free personal Arc Online, login. You just don't have access to software and things. You can download the app and access anything that's publicly available. So I don't think that anybody actually has added costs if we can get that to move over. It'll just be an extra setup step of creating an account, downloading an app, bringing getting the survey downloaded and onto the phone to be able to do a offline area. But it's easy enough to do. If we can get it again, if we can get it moved over, I mean, I can kind of walk folks through that in probably a 15-20 minute meeting.
And Ken, can you explain again why the fencing practice wasn't included? Was it because it's a linear practice, or was there some other
Yeah, it was
issue?
because it's a linear practice, and I wasn't able to get a line feature in the map itself. Is only the polygon area feature. So if we just want to map out the damage area, I'll get the fence in there. It'll just require a second sketch to be uploaded.
Well, or can we have the fencing practice included in that main menu, even if the mapping function doesn't automatically connect to, the linear estimation? Is it?
Yeah, we can certainly do
Okay.
that.
All right. So
Yep,
yeah, I
I'll
guess
I'll work
so.
on getting that. That'll be in the next handful of days then. So you can at least get it all, yeah, you can get it all filled out and selected, and we just have to draw up a sketch and attach it at the end. Could we just map a thin polygon? You certainly could, but your measurements are going to be a little bit tougher because it's going to give you that perimeter measurement. So if you just went, down and back, it's almost going to double your fence length. So I wouldn't rely on the calculations it's giving you for the perimeter, and then the area measurement will be irrelevant. So yes, you could draw the fencing in, just you have
Yeah.
to come up with a length measurement yourself.
And Kelly's got a comment in the chat that fencing is not likely to be a commonly utilized practice. So
Yeah,
I guess, yeah, I'd like to have it in the menu so that it can be, planned out, but I'm not concerned that the mapping feature isn't connected to the,
yeah,
estimation of length.
okay, yep. And that was just the one thing that the Missouri version had was they built out a separate survey for the linear features. So I was kind of waiting to see if that's what we want to do, or if we can just make do with it in this version, and we'll integrate it here. And if we like it, it stays. And if we need to do something else, we'll build something else out.
And there's one other attribute of the forest that I'm wondering if we should add to this. Kelly, can you clarify um, if a landowner has done a prior timber harvest before, this ice storm event, does that impact the level of environmental review for the property? Meaning that, if they've already been doing commercial harvesting in the past 25 years, there's already an expectation of potential soil disturbance, and therefore, the level of environmental review is lessened with the documentation of prior active forest management. Is that the case? Should we be adding that, field up front?
That is the case. And this is a great question because something we've been chatting about internally we may want to do is we may want to host a meeting to talk about the environmental aspects because we basically have it kind of divvied up into three buckets, right? One is where there's not going to be any soil disturbance and it kind of meets those flexibilities that were authorized for start um, without an application. We have that one. The next one is they're not doing any kind of activities or disturbance beyond previous disturbance, right? But we still have to go out and we have to do a site visit for that. And then the third is if they're doing something like if there's stump removal and there's some aggressive work out there, then that's number three, a bucket three, and that's where they have to hire a consultant to take a look at it. So it might behoove us, and it might be easier for everybody as far as having conversations with participants or as you're making decisions on plans, um, which which bucket we've identified them in, and then maybe in the end what's going to end up happening out there, because we might have to go out and do a different environmental evaluation prior to them starting the project or us approving the application, if there's going to be a more aggressive activity done. And then one other note that was just brought to our attention too, we've got hits for the Indiana bat and the Eastern Massasauga rattler in those areas. And we're working with Fish and Wildlife Services, because right now there would only be certain times of the year that we could do activities in those areas. Um, we're trying to work to see if we can get something, because basically we're saying that, the storm basically destroyed their habitat, and what we're doing is trying to restore their habitat. So we don't have to work within those time frames, but that's something that FSA is also currently working on. So currently there's kind of time constraints as far as when activities can be planned because of those species.
So it would then be helpful for a forester to document, the date of a prior timber harvest.
Yes, and we tried to capture that in our interview notes, but if they have knowledge themselves, say maybe they've been out there before in the past and there's a new landowner and they just really don't know, yeah, that would be very helpful, because we may end up having to change whatever we had them assigned to as far as for the environmental, right? We might have to do a more aggressive environmental, maybe it's a less aggressive environmental.
So I guess can either we ask that question within the description of the forest, or if this really is something that's a significant question that impacts potential environmental review, maybe we just add a simple question, date of the, most recent timber harvest prior to March of 2025. That way, foresters are certainly documenting that there's been prior active forest management on the site. And if that's an important element for FSA, it seems like we should be highlighting that right up front, on the first page there.
Yeah, can you just send the question to me in a chat or in an email, and I'll get an
You
input
bet.
after this.
Yep.
Yep. And then I did see Ryan asks about there being multiple polygons. So in this format, no. The survey itself aligns with one polygon. It's kind of the limitation of the spatial data. But step two, the kind of the next phase of building this out, like I mentioned, having an app that has the editing and making it easier to select the survey and edit it, is going to be an experience builder app. That part's relatively easy. But also on top of that, I want to build a more robust web map where you do have the opportunity to draw up, have like a line layer and have more polygons and a PDF export for a more robust map. So then you can export that out and do more planning with it if necessary. So there will be an opportunity down the road here as we develop this out to have multiple polygons and to have more more functionality with mapping tools. It's just that the Survey123 is pretty limited in what you can do with the map, since it's kind of meant just to tie one point or one polygon to the survey. If you end up needing to draw out multiple polygons for the same area, it might be best to just use the polygon feature to outline the area and then attach a more a kind of a breakdown or another sketch that helps illustrate what you're trying to do. So yeah, it will evolve that direction. It's just in kind of the timeline that we had and getting all this stuff in. There wasn't time for it on this iteration.
And that's an interesting question. Thanks for that, Ryan, because certainly larger parcels with multiple forest types are going to be experiencing different types of damage, right? Like I was up in the Gaylord area last week, and you know, a lot of the conifer plantations or the aspen stands are flattened. Uh, the hardwood stands that I observed had different types of damage and lesser damage. And so mapping multiple polygons within an ownership is certainly relevant towards quantifying the damage and providing the right restoration practice for that forest type. So that that certainly is a relevant question in terms of providing the right information to the landowner and the right restoration practices. But from a mapping perspective, so Kelly, so FSA is going to be providing a map to every forester and the 848 form right up front. Hopefully the 850 form also, right? That environmental review. So the
Um,
foresters go out and do this. When you want to map back, do you want, you know, this Survey123 tool to be the primary map that is returned to FSA, or do you want to see some edits to your FSA generated map that has the, you know, all the parcel boundaries shown? Because, you know, in this environment, we can map the area of damage, but it's not going to create a map that has the property boundaries on it.
I think the map that's being supplied back, our folks should be able to line that up with the property, hopefully in the property lines. Um, I know being that it's in a forested area, we might have areas that cross over that might be difficult. Um, for the time being, let me chat that over with some of the counties, given that they're the ones with some of these applications and stuff, and we'll figure that out. I mean, I don't see why we wouldn't also use that other map, but we might have to maybe have them at least maybe identify on the map that's sent with the 848 those areas. You know, it might not be a perfect drawing, but so that we can correspond it back to the Survey123.
Yeah, and if we need to, I can get the URLs for the online hosted data for your map folks so that they have access to the raw data and can export it and just bring
Okay,
it right into.
yeah, that would be great. That might be
Yep.
the best route, because then, yeah, we would know exactly where it's at and stuff. So,
Yeah, they could just have that as a layer in whatever their working map is and just kind of copy it into, you know, whatever maps they're using.
and then as far as the 850s for each one, we'll have to chat about that. Um, because obviously every single one of those is going to be different, and some of them it's going to be an actual FSA 815, and the other one's going to be this ER 850. Um, but that can be part of our conversation further, Mike, about what we want to supply for the environmental portion, because maybe it's simplifying it as far as the level of environmental review that FSA has completed out there. And that way they know, like, we've evaluated it to this level, right? And then, oh, we've evaluated it to this level, right? That's, we know that there's been identified that's been previous disturbance out there, and they're not doing anything beyond that previous disturbance. And then ones that have been identified that, you know, they don't know if there was previous disturbance, right? Or we're going to be maybe doing disturbance that's beyond previous disturbance. So those are kind of the three segmented, and we call them buckets. We actually have a visual aid for it that might work in that instance.
Okay, thanks, Kelly.
Yep.
Jake, I see you've got a question.
Yeah, this kind of stems off Ryan's question and what Kelly's going to need for a map, but most of the time when I'm in the woods, and I know I will for this project, I always have a Garmin on me. Is there going to be a spot that we could just upload GPX files or shape files along with each property?
Out of the survey, it's not gonna be possible, but that can be implemented in the next application in the the experience builder. There's an option to upload data so that you can just go ahead and plug in your shapefile or your GPX and it'll pop onto the map. So in a more robust viewer or the map tool in the next version, yes, right as of right now, you can't do that into the survey itself.
Okay, is that something if we do, based off Ryan's question, if we have multiple polygons, would it make sense to take our own and send that in to someone at some point? I know we can't on the initial survey, but I'll probably have it for my own personal use when I have to look back on the property anyway.
Yeah, let me I don't think that this the actual attachment will take a zip file. No, it didn't, right? Let's see here. I think just all the Word documents, but I'll see if there's a good upload option. Just get through this. I didn't think it said zip. Or I'll just test and see if I can upload some zips. Because if you could put in a zip file and get it here, which it doesn't look like you can, but we'll see about a good attachment. If not, you can always email it in too, and we can address it that way.
Would it maybe work to just, I know this sounds a little rudimentary for some folks, but I mean, even just having a map for the sketch part, attaching that additional sketch. I know it says it only allows PDF docs and those sorts, but I mean, you could paste into a Word file, a Word file and make a PDF out of it or something like that, just to attach it that way for each additional treatment.
I mean, when are you guys getting out into the field to do this? What's the timeline? Are we going out right away next week?
I would love that.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen that quick because
I can have another map. Like I can have the experience builder set up with a new map. That'll be the easy part. Honestly, getting all the form data in is like the really labor intensive part, and that's done now. I have today and a half day tomorrow to put together an experience builder where I can build in a more robust map viewer. Let me just see before we start putting pencil drawings in here. Let me just see if I can get that experience builder set up so that you can build out a proper map. And then Kelly, if you can send me maybe an example of what you are looking for, I can format that map tool to accommodate what you guys are looking for.
Okay, perfect. Just one other thing, and I think this would probably help the service forester is, because like our track and farm maps, they're zoomed right in and they don't necessarily always show like the nearest crossroad and stuff. So we also anticipate, and this is something we were gonna chat with our county offices, is to try to have them provide you with also maybe a zoomed out area so you know what the closest crossroad is for these areas.
Okay.
So for planning and stuff. So there would be those two things that would go in because our track maps are they're zoomed into whatever that
Yeah.
boundary is that we have established for that track. So
Okay. Well, and even I don't know what the inset map capabilities are on the Arc online environment nowadays, but I think it's better than it used to be. So I can play around with an inset map that does just have like a zoomed out version in the corner that shows you where you're at.
okay.
I'm gonna add that to my list, but I think I'm just gonna put the challenge forward to get this thing out the next day.
Well, Ken, I think you've got a little more time.
Yeah.
Kelly, what is your time frame? When do you expect that county FSA staff are going to be calling foresters and assigning site visits?
The earliest might be 2 weeks, but it probably could be 3. Like I said,
Okay.
I've got to loop back around because we've just in the last week or two started implementing our environmental team out there, and they have to go out. They also have to complete the environmental assessment in the form before we can do the referral. And obviously we don't want to send these folks out with one here, one there. We do want to kind of try and get strategic with some areas and with some packets for multiple requests. So let me, after we get done with this call, I will be touching base with what come out of the other call that I missed this morning to see exactly where we're at and to get a better time frame.
Yeah, so if the local FSA staff aren't ready on Monday, we don't need to be ready on Monday.
That's
Okay.
correct. You've got some time.
All right. Well, yeah. And then I will, if I can get Kevin's thing to load here, kind of show you what I'm thinking as far as it's going to be something similar to this, where you have the, this is going to be the survey. It's going to be embedded right in, and it'll start here. And then if you want to edit existing, you can just go ahead and go click on one. It brings you to that survey, and you can go ahead and just start editing existing data. Then there'll be you know, a third, you have a print button when you're ready, but you'll have a third editing, say instead of data filtering, where you can add in new lines and new points, and we can have a couple different layers in there. The power of this is that we can have multiple layers showing, you know, multiple things, where the survey as a standalone doesn't let you have that functionality. It doesn't even let you really have background layers from the survey. So if I can get this, something really similar to this this setup where the survey is integrated and the mapping tool is there, it will be much more functional from, you know, from what it sounds like from this conversation. There'll also be an add data feature where you can plug in a shapefile and it'll pop up on the map. And it'll pop up in your instance, your specific instance, like nobody else will have access to it because it's stored locally, but it'll be good enough to have on the map, get a printout, and have that a little more robust PDF output of a map. So just to kind of get everybody thinking, you know, so that we don't have to revisit the survey functionality. All of it's going to be the same. It's just going to be, you get a new map that has, you know, I want to create a new survey, I want to edit an existing survey, and then I want to do the map. So it might just be like 3 steps, but it'll get you a lot better map tool.
And Ken, what you're showing now, would that be everyone has access to everything, or would that be the forester only sees what they log into?
Well, since we're not hooked up to logins and it's all public, it'll be everybody has access to everybody's. Um, but you know, it's, you got to be deliberate about editing somebody's stuff, right? As unless you think there's privacy concerns.
Yeah, there will be, because this is all private landowner information. So I can't imagine that we can be operating in a fully public environment with private landowner restoration plans.
Yeah, well, it won't be published. It'll just be the folk, you know, like the folks in this room basically that have access to it. Not that it can't be accessed externally, um, but we're only handing the link out to the folks that are using it.
Okay.
Is it a concern that one forester has information on another forester's project?
I'll let Kelly answer that one.
Would you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
So for privacy, you know, this will be, you know, everybody in this room gets the same app link. You know, anybody who gets issue who has to do these. But that means everybody will be able to see everybody else's stuff. So if Ryan, you know, if Ryan has a few points up here that he's working on, Jake has a few points over here that he's working on, you'll see both of Ryan and Jake's points on the map, and we'll be able to open them and take a look at them. And theoretically, you can edit them too, but I think, you know, folks have integrity and we're professionals, and we're not worried about, you know, anybody toying with anybody's stuff. So I don't see the big concern as far as like a use case, but if you think it's a privacy issue, is what I guess
I
we're interested
I
in.
I don't think so, because that's no different than like us internally and stuff. There's certain even applications that we have within our systems where everybody has access to it, right? And it's that same
Yeah.
level of, your expectations and basically these folks and these roles that they're playing, right? And that they've been contracted with are expected to abide by those privacies. So I don't see that being an issue.
Yeah.
Well, and the one advantage of this is it's a truly enterprise environment where not only can the 40 foresters that are doing these restoration plans see it, but Kelly's 8 FSA county staff can have access to this. And there may be some advantages there where where those county staff have complete access to this. That could be an attractive option.
Yeah, ideally this gets to be a tool for everybody, and we can, we can kind of evolve it out to specific uses if we need to. But yeah, that's the alternative would be everybody getting their login, everybody being added to a group, everybody, being only, because if I have, if it's not public and we have it, held privately and in a group, I can check a box that says that you can only see the surveys that that you did. But you just don't, you kind of lose the privacy, the guardrails a little bit when you go public with it. So it'll be anybody who gets shared the link will be able to use it, you know. So like if somebody really wanted to go again, like I think everybody has integrity, we're all professionals. Like somebody wants to post it on their Facebook page, well, everybody who clicks that link gets to go use it, it gets to go see it. So it's that's something to consider if we're really worried about misuse, or if we think if we think it's going to be just fine and has minimal privacy concerns.
Yeah, that fully public potential, most likely by error rather than intent, is a terrifying option. So we may, if we go this route, it may need to be a login environment.
Yeah. Yeah, this will be the way to unlock easy editing of an existing. This is, this just makes it way easier to come back in and, oh, like it wasn't, in this case, like if it was virtual, like, oh, it wasn't virtual, it was actually in person. So we got to, change it and save it. You know, so if there was, you filled out half of this thing out in the field and you hit go, well, then you get back to your office, pull it up on here and finish filling it out. So I think this is a much more valuable way to have it as far as the end user goes. But again, it just kind of comes with opening up the view of data to whoever has it.
With this page you're showing us right now too, is this how we will do a follow-up visit? Just go back and edit the first entry, or will we have to do another form for a follow-up visit?
If you're doing a follow-up and it's going to build right into the form, you'd open up the existing form.
Okay.
Well, but the follow-up visit is a year or two later after the landowners completed the practice. Kelly, what information does FSA require when the forester goes back to confirm completion of the practice? Is it going to be different data that we need to provide?
Yes, so it'll be different. We'll provide you with, it's a different form. It'll be an FSA 848B form, and you'll go out and it'll have all the information that was put into the plan on it, and the participant will have certified to what activities they completed and how many acres, and you just go out and verify that, and you either say, yep, it was done according to the standards and specifications of the plan and the number of acres were completed, and you sign off. If there's things that weren't completed or maybe, you know, they weren't really necessary, then you just certify that back. So that's all that step is.
Okay,
And
so
there's
that's
no need for
after the
spatial data
installations.
there.
Oh, sorry, Mike, go ahead.
There's no need for new spatial data there, so we really don't need to have a spatial report there. It's merely a matter of taking that 848 form and verifying yes or no and returning it to FSA.
Yep. Who knows, there could be some instances where maybe, there might be some GIS work, or at least if they can identify in a map, we already have the GIS area identified where the work was done, and maybe it was lesser of that. And
Yeah.
they have an idea of what those acres are. That might be the one instance where we may need some GIS, right? Is if they were unable to complete, say they signed up and they said they were going to do 100 acres, and they financially they just couldn't, right? They got 50 acres of it done, but they just cannot. They're not going to be able to complete the rest of it.
Okay.
So then we would have to certify off, and we would only pay on the 50 acres that were restored rather than the 100 that they originally intended and was approved for.
Okay. Well, and maybe this is a side, a follow-up conversation with you and Mike and I, but there's some advantages I would say to integrating that closeout
Yeah.
with this, because we could have percentages and all the numbers kind of hidden in the background, and funnel
Okay.
those into like a dashboard or like an interactive map where you can see what was completed 100%, what wasn't, and just a visual. But you could also funnel those numbers through a dashboard that's interactive and kind of gets you good summaries of the overall program based on a fiscal year or a grant period or whatever. So there's certainly some value there to do it in the spatial environment, not necessarily being spatial, but all that information is still tied to that one point.
Okay.
Any other questions for us today?
I have another question. I think this is probably geared more towards you, Mike. Is there any word on a training in the woods around the Gaylord area? And if so, would we be able to use this form? I think going through this form in the woods would be beneficial for me for sure.
That's an excellent question, and I do not have a in the woods training planned yet.
I mean, you're welcome to go do some testing with it and then just leave a note that it's, that needs to be deleted later or something. That's no problem at all if you want to just play around and get the feel for it.
Well, and that's a good question. That's even bigger than the Survey123 tool, right? There's a lot of these other programmatic questions that we're still trying to wrestle with, and I'm trying to learn more about what are the implications of a prior harvest. Does that lessen environmental review in the future? So there's and some of the conservation practices themselves, it'd be good to talk through some of those. So, Jake, thanks for the hard question. I recognize that we could all benefit from hearing additional uh, uh, training. I don't have anything scheduled at the moment. Would you, are there more folks on the call today that would appreciate a training in the Gaylord area, say the last week of August or first week of September?
Mike, this is Keith Martell.
You bet. What's up, Keith?
I would suggest that you schedule it after the first week of September, because many of us are finishing up QFP plans for that September 1st deadline. Be very
It is that
difficult.
season, yeah.
Yeah, we'd be very difficult for us to do something before then. I think there's a number of questions here that are raised that we can only answer in the field when we're actually out here doing this together. And I think a field session would be an excellent opportunity to cover those questions. But let's not do it until after the first week of September, if it's possible.
As in not till September 8 or later, or just after that September 1 QF deadline?
Yeah, I would say anytime after the 1st of September.
Okay. Well, I'll try to put together a training opportunity in the Gaylord area sometime after September 2nd. September 1 is Labor Day, so we're clearly going to avoid that. Maybe that Thursday the 4th or Friday the 5th or something. And I guess, I guess we better start wrapping this session up, but we will incorporate some of the feedback we heard today into getting hopefully a final version of the Survey123 ready to go. I need to follow through with Kelly in terms of the timing, if FSA will be ready for us to start doing, field visits. It sounds like the next week or two is very unlikely to happen. It sounds like uh, September 2nd may be a better time to start kicking off doing these field visits, but I will confirm that with Kelly. And I had intended to crank out 25 contracts tomorrow so that y'all are ready. But if FSA isn't ready for you folks to start doing site visits, maybe I'll delay those contracts until late August so that we're ready to go in early September. But I'll get information to you by end of the day tomorrow in terms of the timing. But I appreciate everyone's time this morning, and thanks for the input. And Ryan, I get it what you're saying there in terms of the wood is degrading. Um, I I don't know how to solve that problem.
Yeah, Mike, yeah, I did accompany two FSA folks yesterday on a environmental site visit for a large property, and I was able to show them significant bark beetle infestation and activity. And they talked about the possibility of some kind of waivers for people to start, or it seemed like maybe it was possible for certain things, maybe to get going even before everything's complete on their application. But I don't know what the likelihood of that is for specific concerns like that. It'd be nice to be able to tell landowners that we're trying at least.
Yeah, they can do like debris removal and hazard tree removal right now prior to their application. It just, has to be non-disturbance, non-ground disturbance until we, sort out the environmental.
Yeah, I mean that probably doesn't include clear cutting red pine plantations that are
It does
pretty much
not,
all. Yeah.
unfortunately. And I mean, once we get the environmental done, and if it's not going to be anything beyond, previous disturbance, and we've got that environmental done, and we can, I think, yeah, we'll have to also work on getting approvals, but yeah, that might be a bit of a delay.
Yeah. And I've had conversations with some landowners, and even the one yesterday with the FSA folks. And, the bottom line was you may not get reimbursed for stuff that gets done, prior to it being approved. But, you got to kind of weigh that. What's more valuable to you? Having a product that can sell, or pretty much paying for somebody to just either chip it or remove it as all pulpwood.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for your time this morning. I will get this recording up on the Michigan SAF YouTube channel so others are able to access this later, and be looking for an email from me tomorrow afternoon in terms of next steps. And thank you, Ken, very much for your hard work putting this together. And I appreciate your effort, and we'll get this thing ready to go so that we'll have 40 foresters ready to do 1,200 site visits, likely, early September in this fall. So thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, guys. If you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to reach out.
Bizarre.